Today I want to show you 3 of the best things that I did for my workflow in my Logic Pro template. Hey everyone, my name is Robert Rodriguez and I'm a media composer. If you're new here, I want to invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, I just want to give you my free composer reference guide just for being here and checking out this video. It's going to give you tips on how to start writing for most genres in film and television music, and I left a link for that in the description down below. So like I said, I want to show you 3 maybe not so obvious things that I did to help my workflow in Logic Pro. Number 1, save your own custom patches as a backup. This way, you're not going to lose any changes that you make when you create a new project or template. This is going to be great for assigning faders and knobs that are on your MIDI controller to any of your presets in your DAW. So for example, I use the Nectar Impact and it comes with a bunch of faders and knobs that I can use. And I actually assigned a set of these faders from MIDI CC 21 through 26. And so I always know that 21 through 26 are going to affect mic positions. So if I were just to go to Cinewinds, for example, and I opened up a preset, the full mix would be 1 mic position, the spot mic is another, close, room, and surround. The thing is, when you download a sample library from any developer, their mic positions might be assigned to a totally different set of MIDI CCs. But I know that 21 through 26 for this controller are going to be assigned to mic positions. So I can go and save these mic positions to my automation. So 21 is going to be a full mix, 22 is the spot mic, 23 is close, 24 is room, and surround is 25. And then what I would do is save this patch as a custom patch. So if you're using Contact, for example, you could go to the save, save as, and I would say this is instrument 1, piccolo, true legato, and then I would add custom so that I know this is not overwriting the original patch that came with the library. This is something new. This is something that I know I tweaked a little bit. The reason why I'm saving this as a separate file and not just overwriting the original file is really as a backup. This way I can have easy access to the original downloaded file, and I now have this new custom preset that I made ready to go whenever I need it. And just to add an extra layer to this, I will save my custom patches to a totally different location. So right now, all of my sample libraries are on a 2 terabyte SSD, but I also save just a backup folder on my computer itself just to have there so that if anything were to happen to my SSD, I can always have access to my presets. If anything were to happen to just the sample developer libraries, I can always re-download those from the developers themselves, but I might lose my presets. So that's what's going to be super important about your own custom-made presets, is making sure you back them up. And take a look at, if I were to save this as a custom preset in the regular instrument folder for Cinewinds core instruments, you see all of their default instruments. But I created a separate folder in here, which is my custom patches and multis, and I created my custom patches, and these are just a list of all the ones that I actually tweaked. So it's not really too much. So I save it on my sample library SSD, but I did it to patch only, and I saved it to a folder on my computer as well, just as a backup. And it's also important to note that when I do save a preset, I'm only doing the patch. I'm not doing patch and samples, because that can really increase the size. You're basically gonna double the amount of storage that you're taking up because you're doubling the patch and sample. So sticking with patch only is probably your best bet, because those file sizes are gonna be much smaller. Number 2 is for you to save your own multi-presets. I can't even begin to tell you how helpful this has been whenever I try starting up a new template. The idea is that once you have your custom presets, you can then save them together to create a multi. Multis are great because I rarely change the articulations that I want for an instrument. So basically, I created a custom patch for 2 horns ensemble true legato, and then I doubled that here. 2 horns ensemble sustain, eighths, stopped, and so on. And because I know that these are typical articulations that I'll always want with my horns, I created a multi out of this. Now, whenever I load up a new project from scratch, or maybe I want immediate access to these exact patches routed the way that they are, I can always just pull up my multi. And to save the multi, you just go to the save option. Before, for patches, we did save as, but this time we're going to save multi as, and it knows because I already pre-saved this to my own custom sets, and it shows the multi presets that I already saved. And so this one I called Cinesamples 2 Horn Ensemble. And once again, I did patch only. Recently, I reworked my template, but having these multis saved and just ready to go completely saved me a whole lot of time. I didn't have to go through a list and figure out which patches I wanted to use. I didn't have to load them up individually, and I didn't have to route them all over again the way I needed them to be routed. Everything was just saved from the one time that I put the hard work into it. So just like with the patches, I save my multis on the SSD with my sample libraries, but I then create a copy of that folder of the multis and bring it over to another location just in case I lose access to them. And number 3 is to save your own articulation sets per instrument patch. So if you're anything like me and you do use a lot of articulation sets for your instruments, then this is probably going to be a huge one for you. As you're creating and saving your own presets, you might be adjusting the articulations and key switches as well. So creating articulation sets during that process would be really, really helpful for you. And to make it really worthwhile in the long run, you're going to want to create an articulation set for each patch that uses key switches. And if not that, then at least for instruments that share the same type of key switch. The reason for all of this is so that later you can have an articulation set that is specific to the instrument that you are working with. Like, you're not going to be fumbling around with key switches in the middle of composing. So let's just pull up something from maybe Opus this time around. Yeah, so maybe let's go to Opus Woodwinds. I want to load it up. And right now we're looking at the Piccolo Key Switch Master patch. And so here I added all of the articulations that I would want, and I edited them in this little tab here. Some libraries let you edit them, some might not, but the point is you have your key switches either at the end or at the top. Now, if I were to just go to my piano roll, let me create a new region. Automatically, it's going to start on legato, but these are all the ones that I edited myself. I added in a sustain, staccato, major run up, FX 1 and 2, and everything in between. Whereas something like flute or alto flute, for example, these are going to be specific to the East-West alto flute patch that I made. So legato, sustain, and some trills, and the list can go on and on. But I spent the time creating each one individually so that then I don't have to worry about this later on. Let me show you what I did for the East-West Piccolo instrument. On the left-hand side, you have track, which just shows you East-West Piccolo. Then you go down to articulation set. It shows that it's the East-West Piccolo / flute, and we know that it's low switches because that's how I put it. When creating articulation sets, it's gonna prompt you to basically save it to a articulation setting folder. In that folder, you can then organize by sample developer, which is what I did here. So right now I go to East-West because I know those are the ones that I created. I then organize it by type of instrument. So I'll go to winds, and then I organize it by if it's a high switch or a low switch. Typically, low switches mean a higher instrument, and then higher switches really apply for lower instruments. And then we'll see my East-West Piccolo / flute articulation set that I saved. And again, putting in the work now is going to save you so much time later when you're actually composing and trying to just work with the template that you have. You don't want to be worrying about remembering anything. You just want to go. You just want to write. So having these articulation sets pre-saved by instruments and, being really detailed and organized about it is just really easy for when I want to write. I go to this piccolo and I see the articulations ready to go. And I know that this is specific to this instrument. I can't emphasize this one enough. It is such a time saver in the long run. And because I just love being oh so cautious, I saved that articulation setting folder to another location as a backup, just in case. I don't want to lose the work that I put into this. All right, so overall, these might not seem like the most attractive workflow tips, and let's face it, you'll definitely have to put in some time and some work. But if you are willing to do so, the payoff is amazing. It's gonna save you time while you're working, while you're composing, by streamlining your workflow process. So that's gonna be it from me. Those are the 3 things that really helped me out for my own template: presets, multis, and articulation sets. If you did get some value out of today's video, then definitely consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. You can also show some support over on Patreon or just by buying me a coffee. The links for those are in the description, along with that free reference guide. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy composing.